Hello. The Divine Code reading for September 26. We are in the chapter Aspects of Idolatry from which benefit is allowed and Nullification of Idols. Topic number 14. How is nullification of an idol performed? Cutting off the tip of the nose, ear, or finger of an idol. It appears that one needs to remove something consequential for the nullification of the idol. This is discussed earlier in chapter 5, topic 9, and note 167, not 169 there. So it has to be that something that would be consequential that would disfigure. Now, it doesn't mean that disfiguring would be necessary. What it is in the idolatry involves gazing upon the idol. That's the basic concept of idolatry. And to gaze upon it to become sort of one unit with the idol. That's an aspect of it that's being dealt with here. To take away a recognizable part, particularly of the face, would prevent the idolaters to be able to do the same type of gazing. And therefore taking off one of these figures. Now, just as a human being can have his nose taken off, and he's still a human being, that it's possible that the idol might still have some status. It depends on the worshipers whether or not they consider that to be significant. So a lot of it has to do with the worshipers. Typically, taking off one of these things would make the idol no longer of value to the worshipers. Or smashing the face with a hammer, even without removing anything. A metal idol may be sold to a Jewish smelter, for he will surely melt it down. These are all methods of nullification. Rambam, Laws of the Worship of Stars and Idols, 8:10, Shulchan Aruch, Yoredea, 146:8. There is a difference of opinion in this regard, and for Gentiles, the lenient opinion is followed. There would be a question as to whether or not a Jewish smelter would be able to nullify an idol. I mean, obviously, if it's melted down, the idol no longer exists. But is it necessary to then grind it up and throw it in the sea or something like that to totally dismiss it, or is it valuable? It can be used at that point. When it's dealing with a Gentile, the rulings are more lenient. The other part is a rabbinic commandment that a Jew cannot nullify an idol, and therefore when it's dealing with a Gentile, selling it to the Jew to nullify it, it gets into that kind of quasi area. But as far as the Gentiles are concerned, that would be sufficient. Likewise, if a Gentile gave his idol as a deposit to a Jewish smelter, and the Gentile did not return to redeem it unless the Gentile could not return due to some problem. For example, if he had to flee in time of war, it is surely nullified. So it's the same issue of a Jewish smelter. In this case, being given as surety on a loan, as a deposit. It's being left with the Jewish smelter. The person forgets about it. Now, if he had to leave in an unexpected manner in time of war or some emergency happened, that would not mean that he abandoned the idol. And therefore, it might be that would not nullify the idol. But if he kind of brushed it off and decided he didn't care about the idol anymore, and then he might decide to just abandon it. And if he abandons it, if the idolater abandons the idol, then it's considered nullified. In contrast, at Shak Yerodea 146:10. In contrast, if an idol was pledged or sold to a Gentile, even one who doesn't worship idols, or to a Jew who isn't a smelter, or if a building collapsed on it, even without any of its worshippers trying to retrieve it from the debris, or if it was stolen by bandits, even without any of its worshippers trying to recover it, or if it was smashed on an area other than the head, these are not methods of nullification. So there's something particular about the head that's important for the idolatry. It's part of the whole gazing thing. If he was smashed, if the arm was smashed with a hammer, that would not nullify the idol, because it's more the face-to-face connection that's being made that's a concern for idolatry. Also, if the idol was discarded, not that it was discarded, if the idol was lost through like a building collapsing on it or taken by bandits, if the person who lost it had given up hope of retrieving it, it would be considered that it changed status. It was now nullified to the owners. But if they still held out hope of finding it, if they're looking for it, then it would still have the status of an idol, because they attach significance to it. Spitting on an idol, urinating in front of it, or dragging it on the ground, or throwing feces on it are not acts of nullification. Rambam, Laws of Stars of Worship and Idols, 8:10, and Shulchan Aruch, Yerodea 146:8. Some rabbinic authorities say that this applies only if one spat on the idol or urinated before it temporarily, whereas if one does so repeatedly, even if he says even if he says that he is nullifying it and consents to do so, it is nullified. So if people are doing a disgraceful thing to the idol, if it's being done temporarily, the idol worshippers, the question of nullification is that the idol worshiper would no longer consider it significant to want that idol back. And if it was being urinated on or something, the idol worshippers may want it back, and then they'll just clean it off and continue worshiping it. If they give up hope of getting it back, they say, okay, it's been urinated on, I don't want to deal with it anymore, and it no longer has the status of an idol, and the person continues urinating on it, then it might be considered nullification. This is an area of doubt. It could be understood either way. A lot of it has to do with the earlier part of the house falling on top of it or being stolen by thieves, is whether or not the idolaters would want the idol back. If a Gentile is being forced to nullify an idol, even merely voicing an annulment or spitting or urinating on it is not sufficient. Only breaking or damaging the idol will nullify it. Again, it's the intention of the person that nullifies the idol. If the person is being forced to spit on the idol, that would not be a nullification, because it's against his will, and that would not be sufficient. But if he was forced to break the idol up, that might be considered nullification. even though he's doing it under duress, it's something that will be of a permanent value to the nullification of the idol. Rima Eurodea 146.8. Topic number 17. If an idol that had been desecrated by its worshippers in a time of peace may be used for benefit, because a desertion of this nature is an act of nullification. However, if the idol is deserted in a time of war, it is not considered nullified and is still forbidden, because its worshippers probably deserted it only on account of the war. So again, it's the intention of whether or not the idolaters would want it back. If it's a time of peace and they just discard it, and it shows that they no longer care about the idol, and therefore the idol would be nullified. It'd be okay for benefit. But if it's under duress, it's not something they wanted to do. They deserted it, but it would appear that they would still want it back. They would still want the idol back. Then it's not considered nullified. Identifiable parts that are broken off from an idol are forbidden for benefit unless their status has been nullified. So in this case, it'd be like the arm broke off of a statue. And is it okay to use the arm? Let's say the arm is made of gold. Is it okay to use the gold in the arm? Is the question being asked here. Rambam also starts the word for idols, 8:11, Shokanora, Eurodea 146.8. It appears that this applies specifically in places where it is known that people serve broken parts of idols, like those who will serve a hand or other limb of an idol that represents a star or a constellation. But other idols that do not include a practice of serving the broken limbs will surely be nullified in this case. This appears to be the simple ruling for Gentiles and is not comparable to what is explained by Rambam in the Shulchan Aruch, that for a Jew it has not yet become nullified, and this is only from the doubt. But for a Gentile, it is surely nullified by itself. So the question is whether or not the Gentile idolaters give status to the broken piece off an idol. You know, an arm falls off of it, off the idol. Does the worshippers of that idol attach significance to the part that fell off? If it's considered to be like a consecrated item to the idolaters, and it has a holiness to it in their eyes, then it would still maintain a status of idolatry. If, when it falls off, they just see it as something to discard, they don't care about it, then it would be considered nullified. However, I'm sorry. This is only the case if they were found in their original respectable fashion, when they were surely not nullified, then they were only broken accidentally. But if they were found discarded elsewhere, they were surely nullified through abandonment, as explained earlier in topic 7.7. So if it's being found in a respectful manner, you can tell the status of the broken piece of the idol if it was found in a respectful manner near the statue. They have like a special table, a nice tablecloth on it that has the broken piece laid out and people venerate it. It still has that status. But if it's found, thrown in the alley or something, then it's assumed to be nullified. However, if a person, including a Jew, deliberately broke an idol into separated limbs, the idol has been nullified, and these parts are permitted for benefit. See Tractate of Idolatry 42a. For a Gentile, an idol that was smashed by a Jew is considered as if it had broken accidentally, which is acceptable for a Gentile by means of nullification. I would suggest that this isn't the case where the idol worshippers no longer have an interest in it at this point. If someone smashed up the idol and the idol worshippers wanted the idol back and wanted to put it back together again, or wanted to venerate the broken pieces of the idol, that might be an issue. But if it's smashed up in such a way that the idol worshippers don't want it back, then it's been nullified. If the broken off parts of the idol are such that any non-skilled person could easily reassemble them, then each and every part requires separate nullification. However, if even just one of those broken off limbs of the idol has its status nullified, all the parts are nullified after the fact. So this would be the case where whether or not it's possible to put it back together again. If it's possible to put the idol back together again, that would not be considered nullified. But if one of the pieces is discarded, then all the pieces are considered nullified. Now, it's possible that the idol worshippers could put back together an idol from the broken pieces minus the part that's been nullified, and then the new statue would be considered a new statue at that point. That could be an issue. But the old status had been nullified. The broken parts could be used to make a new status, a new idolatrous image, but it would not be considered the same as the old one. Based on Rambam, the sources of ritual impurity, 6.4, that we see that it is considered nullification in regard to the ritual impurity of the idol. Therefore, after the fact, it is considered a nullification for Gentiles as well. This is surely the case if a person did it knowingly and was not forced, and this is no less than the opinion of the Rima, topic 8.16 above, that voicing the nullification alone suffices. So in the case of the broken up statue, someone's just smashed up the statue. If the idol worshiper said all fooey on it, that would be sufficient to be considered nullified. If the parts are such that a non-skilled person could not easily reassemble them, then if even just one limb of the idol had the status nullified, the rest of the pieces are automatically nullified as well. Rambam, the laws of the stars, worship of stars and idols, 8.11, Shulchan Aruch, Yeridea 146.8. Thank you.